Okay, we have in the studio here Bill Dodd. He's candidate for Assembly for the state of California, and he's in we're in his district, correct? I'm kind of new to California politics, and Assembly is not something I'm familiar with, so maybe you can enlighten us a little bit about that. But we'd like to just give your bio information and why you'd like to be Assembly for the people. So, and then we'll open up the phone calls in about 15 minutes, folks. So hold your calls and questions until then. When you do call in, we ask that you just state your question, stay on topic, and take your answer off the air so we can keep the ball rolling. Thank you very much. Mr. Dodd?
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on your station here. This is great to get the word out to the people of Lake County.
Thanks for coming in the studio. That's really nice of you.
You know, this is my, I believe it's 29th trip to Lake County.
Wow.
Since I decided to run for this office, and that goes back to late August. So 29 times I've been up here, and I'm coming back this Saturday and Sunday. So
sounds like you need to get a little cabin up here to
that's a good idea. Follow Mike Thompson's footsteps.
Exactly.
He got a place up here.
So you're coming up for Memorial Weekend for fun and pleasure, or to actually campaign?
Well, it's hopefully a little bit. Hopefully a little bit of both. You know, we've got the parade that's here in Lakeport, and there's one down in Lower Lake as well.
Right.
Saturday and here.
Oh, good. You're going to be in
Sunday.
both of those. That's
so
excellent.
I'll be in both of those, just so people can, put a face with the name that they've been perhaps seeing around or hearing around. And
excellent.
So I'll kind of get into a little bit of my background. I was born and raised down in Napa, and lived my entire life there. I went to schools locally, and then went to Chico State University. Graduated and came back and went into our family water business. We had bottled water. Matter of fact, we got our water from the spring, Whispering Pines, the springs up on Cobb Mountain.
Wow.
Back in the day, that was our spring water, and really fantastic water, actually. And then we did filters and softeners and those type of things. And my father retired. I bought the family out, and then later grew the business and bought 7 Culligan water franchises and became one of the largest Culligan water franchises in the country. Fast forward another 10 years, I was fortunate to be able to sell it successfully, and then I decided to run for the Board of Supervisors in Napa County.
Nice.
That was in 2000. I just felt like, the community had really given back to me and my family over the years in so many ways, and I just decided that's something I'd like to do, and I ran against an incumbent, and a third person was fortunate to win in the primary, and since then I've run 3 times unopposed, which is a lot better than what I'm doing right now. I might want to add.
Yeah, how many people are in your race?
There's 5 people.
5 of you.
5 people in the race. It's a lot easier when there's nobody else in the race. So I did that unopposed 3 times, and that hadn't happened in any district since 1935. So I think I've gotten a lot done. I don't think I have gotten a lot done for citizens in Napa County. We can talk about that maybe a little bit later, but So I've been a county supervisor now for 14 years. We've done the flood control project and a lot of transportation projects. But the reason I'm running, I take a look, because everyone says, why are you running? It seems like you got a good gig as a county supervisor. The pay's better, the benefits are better, and you get to stay in Napa every day instead of going to Sacramento. But I look at the state of California that my parents and my grandparents gave my brothers and my sister and me, which was fantastic. The education system was the envy of the rest of the country. Our roads and streets were fantastic. Our water systems were plentiful. And our budget was great with no debt. And then I look at I've got 5 kids that are all out of the house and 4 grandkids, and I look at what we're leaving the next couple of generations, and it makes me sick. Seriously. And I just feel like we can do better. And I think with this new open primary system that's in the that the voters voted on, which allows everybody to run against everybody, it kind of takes the party. It doesn't totally take the parties out of it, but a lot of the issues that we have, like water and education and roads and streets and helping people, don't seem to me to be Democrat and Republican issues.
Issues, right.
They seem to be people issues.
Absolutely.
And we need to start focusing on people, not politics. And that's why I believe that my moderate message that I've given to this 4th Assembly District, which is pretty big, the geography.
Yeah, actually, one of your opponents, I'm not going to name names because that's not my style, actually left out Lake County on one of his brochures that said that that's part of his district.
Wow. Well, I'm telling you, it's hard for me to leave it out being here 29 times.
Right.
And I've been not chastised wouldn't probably be the word, but warned by, our own Anthony Farrington, county supervisor here, said, Bill, I'm going to support you, but don't come up here and campaign and then not be here for us when we need you.
Well, my first question on that is, did Mr. Farrington warn you about us?
No.
Really? That's amazing. Anyway, sorry.
Why don't I ask him for advice on everything?
Oh, okay. So, okay.
He has endorsed you officially, correct?
Yes, he
Yes, it
has.
has. It's on the website.
Yes, he has.
And since we're talking about that, I'm going to ask a point blank question.
Please.
Okay. And this is because I really didn't know who you were, because I don't live in Napa. And I checked out your website, looked at everything there. And my first impression, and I hope I'm wrong, is based on the people who are endorsing you, based on the donors into your campaign. We're talking about a significant investment by the wine industry.
Yes.
Talking about several well-known winery families, Kendall Jackson, Wagner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Looking at the people who are endorsing you, Mr. Farrington, Mr. Comstock, locally, Mr. Ed Roby also wrote a letter on your behalf, I believe. A lot of the what I'll call entrenched politicians in your area that you are running for. It appears to me that you are one of the establishment type politicians with all these endorsements and all the people contributing to your campaign. And right now, personally, that's the last person I want to vote for, is to have someone who is part of the system and not coming in to fight the system and make the changes as you just said. So what can you tell me, or how can you explain receiving those funds and those endorsements, yet still be able to keep your independence?
First of all, I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm positive that other people are thinking the same thing, or have similar questions. First of all, if somebody wants to call me entrenched politician, I would say I didn't.
That was my word, not anyone else's.
No, I know, but
Okay.
I think that's fair. And I would say I am an entrenched politician in Napa, in Napa County. And basically, what I've done over 14 years is not done it business as usual. We've actually. I'm one of the few guys that has a lot of experience, that has accomplishments that I can show, and we can kind of get into that in a minute. But let me address the question. Before I ran in this race, I had seen Ed Roby at a County Supervisors Association meeting maybe once or twice in my life, and probably, it's fair to say, nobody else. It was during these 29 trips up to Lake County that I sat down with them and talked to them about my vision, about what I wanted to do, so that I believe in the real thing. We'll finish the endorsements and getting the money, but the endorsements, I'm pretty proud of the fact of having an Ed Roby.
Thank you.
Who's on one side, and a Jim Comstock that's on totally, the other side.
Well, see, I disagree with that. I think they're really all on the same side.
Okay.
Absolutely. If you live and work in Lake County, you'd understand that comment.
But I could even take it, down to Sonoma County, where I have Shirley Zane and David Rabbit. Now you might make the same comment about that.
We don't know.
I have no idea.
In Napa, I have Mark Luce and Brad Wagenknecht.
Right.
So you consider yourself a moderate?
I do.
And you like to, you have issues that both sides will agree with. That
and generally, my style has been like, look at. I understand there's environmental issues here, or I understand that you have these development issues. is some common ground here. Let's sit down and let's figure out a way, to make this work for our community. What's best for our overall community. And so I think that that's what's happened with these endorsements, that I've gotten a tremendous amount of local elected officials. And when you don't know anybody and you're coming and trying to say, hey, I want to represent Lake County. Well, these are people that most people in Lake County at least have heard of. Mm-hmm. And so having their name associated with your campaign, there's the good and the bad and the ugly with that, as you well know. But nevertheless, I think if you look at my endorsements throughout Lake County, they're very diverse. Okay. Maybe, I stand, by correction.
Well, you can't stop people from endorsing. I understand that, but when you look at it, it has that appearance. Anyway, yeah. So what about the wine industry? I love wine, and I love the wine industry, but I also have issues with the wine industry. And when I see a major contribution going into a politician's funds, I have concerns that maybe their agenda is going to be pushed harder than maybe some small business owners and environment and all that good stuff. How do you respond to that?
Well, just because you just mentioned small business, the Small Business Administrator, the State of California Small Business Association also endorsed me, and so they like what I have to say, and a lot of these big donations that I've gotten of $4,100 from wineries is a result of knowing these people for 14 years and personal friendships. In fact, I even go back more than 14 years as a county supervisor because I've lived in the community my whole life. There's a lot of this, hey, Bill's the local guy in this race. We haven't had this seat from somebody from Napa County in 35 years. And so there's kind of a lot of that going on with, with the wine industry. But yet, if you take a look at the historical funding from the wine industry to political candidates, it's always been pretty darn big.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
But there was a period there from I think 2005 or 2007 through now because of the economy that's kind of dropped off. But it is a big part of our local economy. Agriculture is a big deal. Huge. And I'm really proud that I've got Paramount Farms and I've got some of these rice growers and egg farmers, and so I'm not just a monoculture with grapes that's supporting me. It's a big part. The California Farm Bureau has supported me as well.
We have a couple questions from Facebook.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
People. So I wanted to run that up. The person, they have two questions. The first part is that you've stated you're pro-business. They want to know if that is why you are against GMO labeling and solar aggregation.
Well, I am not against GMO labeling. What I am is I'm a little bit more pragmatic on it. My concern is I really want to find out what the United States Department of Agriculture and the Federal Trade Commission and Food and Drug Administration, what they're doing. Why can't we get this done on a federal level that makes more sense for business, particularly small farmers? And so that's really, I think, people do have the right to understand what they're eating. Ingredients. We're putting it on labels on wine bottles. We just approved a bill yesterday at the Napa County Board of Supervisors to address sodas. So the kids could read this, the high sugar and everything. It's bad for diabetes and health and everything else. So that's a misnomer. Sometimes when you just don't come all out and say, I'm all in, people suggest that you're against it. So your take
is you want to do more research on it before you make a full decision or a mandate, or you want the feds to mandate it, which will take forever. Don't you think it's important to start it in our own neighborhood?
I think that's where I'm going to, I'm going to end up coming down on it. But it would be better for small farmers and everything else that produce in across state lines. And this is one of the things I'm going to be talking to Congressman Mike Thompson, who has endorsed me.
Well, I know a lot of the fears with GMOs is that there's going to be cross-contamination of crops between organic crops that don't use GMOs and those that do, and that's one of the big issues why people feel it should be good just to ban it now until we know differently, and then come back and revisit it if it's shown that there's no issues with those kind of plants or the cross-contamination isn't a problem.
And even it even kind of goes to the other ones, just the specific type, like the one that is resistant to Roundup that perhaps may.
Right.
I mean, that might be the first one
And
that
the
you just
BT
decide,
toxins
let's get specific. And if we
That's
could
a good start.
If we could be a little bit targeted immediately on something like that, I could be supportive as opposed to across the board. But
Right. Okay.
But nevertheless, I want to see the science too.
That's fair enough, and you should.
Yeah,
definitely.
Community choice aggregation.
Solar aggregation, yeah. Let me just give this little definition so people understand what that means.
thank you.
They're saying it's a community solar that is distributed to individuals who belong to that community solar. The law that is proposed by a Democrat from Southern California changed the existing law from an opt out of the community to an opt into the community. So you have to choose to join the community. And the bill is supported by PG&E. They're saying you are the lone vote against the study to determine if Marin solar aggregation would benefit unincorporated Napa. The study showed a 3% savings benefit. By the way, our listeners are really educated. Savings benefit to the residents. The Board of Supervisors of Napa County wanted to oppose the opt-in law, but Bill Dodd voted no, saying people can opt in just as easily as they opt out, so it doesn't have any effect. Why is PG&E sponsoring this bill if it doesn't have any effect? And are you anti-solar as well?
Well, the person that's asking the question is perhaps educated, but it doesn't sound like they're totally educated in what's going on here. First of all, it's not just about solar. Community choice aggregation, the whole goal of a community choice aggregation is to bring green power. It can be solar, it can be wind,
Okay.
it can be geothermal, it could be a number of different things. And the whole idea of it is to It does two things. It gives people the ability, communities the ability that really don't agree with PG&E on their mix of power, that it's not green enough, that we can green it up as a community. Why don't we do better? And I like that. But the goals, the specific goals behind it are putting steel in the ground and producing energy locally. When you produce energy locally, you create jobs. And creating jobs is a very good thing. So there's two issues here. There was two votes. First, the Board of Supervisors had a decision to make to go in a partnership with Marin County, and Marin County has a community choice aggregation, set up, and they were one of the first ones in. And Marin, they've been cutting edge over there for a long time. One of the things. So the first vote that we had was Marin County wanted to tell us if we would work for them, and they wanted to charge us $35,000 to do a study on whether or not we would fit into their system. And I just kind of felt like, are you kidding me?
Really?
For $5,000 or $10,000, we could hire an engineer to study all sorts of different things and come back to us with a plan that would maybe suggest that a wide variety of things. But the thing I don't either fully appreciate or don't like, those can be two different things, about the Marin Clean Energy Program is they buy all their energy under contracts right now, or 90% of it, from Shell Power. And they're going out and they're getting all this power from outside of the community. So that's one of the reasons, and it's not creating any jobs. It's not creating a local economy, and it's not producing green power locally. And then the second thing is we're putting in our unincorporated population, so that's only like 11,000 people. But we're leaving the city of Napa, which is 75,000, and the cities, well, all the other cities in Napa County, which totals about 100,000 people, out of the picture without doing it. So I felt like we could do better, and that we didn't need to do that. So it really wasn't being against it. And I did vote against the bill. I voted against the bill, which would make it opt in, not opt out.
Right.
Because right now what we do is we say, okay, we want the program. Automatically we put 11,000 customers into that program, whether they want it or not.
But don't you think that's good, though, because it automatically puts them into a more energy efficient format for their energy?
You know, if we came up with the right program that included all the cities, and we could really be a force, in this and do it well and create local jobs, local green power, the opt in and opt out doesn't mean anything.
Well, let's talk about it. And my wife has been doing research on this idea, and there's a company out of Ukiah, I believe, that is trying to do the same thing. You're talking about natural energy, green energy being produced, trying to create local jobs. What about doing a
biofuels?
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, yeah, this is something I've been trying to get going in this region. With all the forest we have, there's something called cellulosic ethanol that can be created from any kind of plant matter. They use an enzyme that it brings it in about $6 a gallon, basically, for the fuel. But it's ethanol. It's a clean fuel. Makes your car engine run better. A plant runs about $1 million for a modular plant that can actually, manufacture this on a level that could actually provide fuel to our region at a cost-efficient rate. And we have a biofuels company in Ukiah Biofuels. They do biodiesel right now, and they are interested in possibly expanding into the ethanol market. Ethanol is something that any car can run on. You don't have to have a special car for it. You just need a little converter that costs about $200 or $300 to put on your car, and you're good to go. Mm-hmm. So as a sustainable fuel source, with all of the forest material and all of the other types of even marijuana trimmings and things like that, all of that could be turned into fuel, and we get it for free. So I would love to see somebody get on the bandwagon and create this fuel plant that could provide fuel for this whole region.
Right. So my point of bringing this up, and my question really is if you're into green fuels, would you, if elected, when you're in Sacramento dealing with the other parties involved, can we come up and explore other ways of generating green fuels besides the status quo? I am so sick and tired, this is my own personal opinion here, of government trying to get involved in absolutely everything and making a disaster of most of this stuff. Why can't we look at it and say, well, I tell you what, let's create jobs, let's create more private industry, let's create some bond funds, let's put some money aside in the budget, and let's designate certain areas, in this case in Northern California, be it Napa, be it Lake, be it whatever, and look at alternative fuel plants that we can produce.
Fantastic idea. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm skeptical that these CCC, these community choice aggregation, are people that really want to do the right thing. They really do. Mm-hmm. They want to do this, but at the same time, they think they're getting 3% savings today. Well, you've seen it in water companies that are run by cities and counties. You've seen it in power companies elsewhere. The best laid plans, and all of a sudden the economy takes a hiccup, right. The power, something happens. And so in this feel good, we're going to take over PG&E, PG&E still, like it or not, they still control Northern California about 92%, or at least the carbon-based
But that's also
energy.
Why we should develop other options so we're not dependent 100% on them.
And to your point, perhaps a way of doing that is to have incentive programs in the state of California that would incentivize companies
Thank you.
Absolutely.
that could do these things.
Sure.
And so, where are they going to save? We're not going to be able to give them cash outlay. But if they do develop these things, what we can do is give them tax credits.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Some R&D.
Property tax credits. We can give them sales tax credits.
Awesome.
We give, all
Accelerated
these
depreciation.
Exactly.
We
There's
live on
any
the
number.
Pacific Ocean. We could have wave technology bringing us energy for free. With the cost of the turbines is all we'd have. I mean, we're just not thinking through this properly. We have so many resources.
You're absolutely right. I've been talking about in the forums and debates that we've been in about an energy policy.
Right.
We're doing pretty well with carbon reduction, and we talk about, okay, we want to be 15% less than what we were in 1991 levels. But we really never talk about, okay, where are we in green power?
Right.
Maybe 6 or 8%. Where do we want to be in 20 years?
Right.
Let's start setting goals in that area, have an energy policy, and then then it doesn't have to be a debate about other type of green, other type of power.
Right.
They're going to be around for a while, but let's focus on what we can do to increase the share of clean power.
That's what
Fair
we'd
enough.
like to see. We have a call. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, how's it going, Terry?
Good. How are you?
And Peter and Bill Dodd.
Hello there.
Thank you.
You guys were talking about energy, and I have a bit of a problem with the way PG&E treats. I would suspect it's only rural areas that do not have natural gas. When it comes to December 21st, they upgrade the price of electricity and downgrade the price of natural gas, since most people are possibly using natural gas for their heater source. When you live in an area that does not have natural gas, what's our benefit of having electricity raised on us if you haven't put, not saying you, but PG&E has not put the effort of bringing that kind of infrastructure to us? What can be done on the state level? Because I don't think a county can change that, a city can't change that, but I think at the state level it's possible to change that so that PG&E fairly treats areas that they are not offering their full service potential.
So could you clarify that during that time period, the electrical rates, so what's happening here is you're not getting the benefit of the switch, so everybody else in other areas that do have natural gas has a lower cost power source, but here you don't because you don't have natural gas.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that is something that probably could be taken up at the state level. Certainly the Public Utilities Commission might be one of the first places to to go on that, but I'd like to do some some research into that because I think it's probably not just a Lake County thing. It's probably a rural county thing.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
And there's a trade association. I've got my colleague on the Board of Supervisors, Diane Dillon, that's the just outgoing president of RCRC, which is the Rural Counties Association of California, something like that. But at any rate, it's all rural counties that have an association, and they talk about problems that and issues that they share with other rural counties. I'll try to do a little bit more work on that.
All right. Well, thank you for your response.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bruno.
Great question.
Thank you.
We
Here
have some good
another
listeners.
call. And we got a line 2. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Morning. Hey, there's a couple issues that are kind of deal breaker or maker for me as far as state candidates go, and that's the high-speed rail project and Governor Brown's plan to build a water delivery system to get more water from the north down to the south of the state. So I was wondering where Mr. Dodd.
I've been called worse. Great questions, and we've had those quite a bit on the campaign trail so far. Let's start with the water tunnels. I oppose the water tunnels. They're simply, first of all, it's nothing but the same old-fashioned water grab from Southern California. But even if it weren't, let's just say that we had the water, I'm very, very concerned about the fragile ecosystem of the Delta area anyway, and I think it's ill-advised. It doesn't produce any water. But the other thing, and this is the moderate in me that suggests that what I worry about is if we say no and hell no. We're not going to ever do that. These people down in Southern California have the population, and thus they have the votes. And they can do it to us. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to say, no, absolutely not. But we'll sit down with you, and let's discuss some other, like you were talking about, options, technologies. Like, for example, for the people of Southern California, they're using desalination
Yeah.
all throughout the Middle East. There's
Right.
no reason
I
why
don't
we can't do that.
understand that. It's so
just,
obvious.
It just blows my mind. And the other thing is we should be incentivizing farmers
Yeah.
to not to. I mean, a lot of the really intense water use products that they're making, a lot of those are just going overseas. Not that that's not a good commodity, not that it's not a good business, but at the end of the day, if we could incentivize them to produce something that uses less water and serves us locally, local farming, farm to table, those type of things, I think that would be better as well. And now to the rail. I am a big supporter of high-speed rail. I think it can be effective. It's cleaner energy than these jet airliners that are going back and forth. And I actually supported the first version of the high-speed rail. And this is where I don't think I'm all about money, but what you see is developers got in the way, and big money got in the way, landowners got in the way, and politicians got in the way. Go figure. And so what happened is that whole high-speed rail could have and should have been on the I-5 corridor where the state of California already owns the land.
Exactly.
Instead, for development play, going right up, so they want to catch Bakersfield and Fresno and Modesto and I don't know, Madera or whatever the other towns are there. So that, but the problem with that is high-speed rail depends on not making a lot of stops, and so if you're really going to have a high-speed rail system, you've got to commit to that. And so, and this thing has just been, the costs have just blown up. I can't support it. Absolutely not.
Well, that's good to hear, because given the track record of the state with large construction projects like the Bay Bridge, which tripled in cost, and high-speed rail has doubled in cost, by the time it ever got built, it would probably be 5 times what we were promised.
Exactly.
You were so right. But, I don't know if any of you gotten this hit mail against me lately. They're now blaming me for the bolts on the Bay Bridge. So
Cool.
So that was you hit a spot there. But I think you're absolutely right.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Phil.
Phil.
Have a good day.
And we can relate. We get blamed for everything up here.
Yeah,
we just
Some guy from Napa is responsible for the bolts on the Bay Bridge. I
Of
don't
course.
think so.
Okay. Let's get into. God, we need another few hours.
We do.
I'm serious. Well,
Let's
get through the primary and you can come back.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay.
So, I got another thing I want to talk about your website, but more importantly for the moment, you said you've been up here, 29 times now, you
Yeah.
said. Are you familiar and do you truly understand the real problems that we face here in Lake County? We have,
with
and
the
I'm going to go through the obvious, no tourism anymore. Our economy is down the tubes. We have very little small business growth at all. We have very little job creation at all. And of course, we have the lake. If you want to represent Lake County, besides your other areas, what can you do? What do you have in your game plan that can help Lake County specifically?
Well, that's a great question. It's a tough question.
It's a tough question.
I am not going to come into this community and purport to know this community as well as people that live here every single day, or minimize problems that some people think that are very, very serious.
Right.
But clearly, on the unemployment rate, social services rate, I was just blown away. I came and worked with the Lake County Resource Center and fed the homeless when they had the homeless shelter.
Right.
Yeah, I was one of the cooks. Well, I still cook for the bridge, which is a daytime one.
And I was, frankly blown away that Lake County gets no money, because basically Lake County hadn't had a homeless population, and the state capped the amounts of money that they were going to give, and I just find that reprehensible.
Yeah,
I just cannot believe. So what I would do at a tough time is give kudos to the community for putting it up.
We have the most wonderful people in Lake
it's-
County. When there's a need and it's made known, I mean, Facebook is huge for that. We put the need out on Facebook, immediately that person gets whatever they need taken care of. It's amazing.
It is amazing, but look at the people in Lake County pay their share of taxes too, and I think that that's something that can be done, in Sacramento, just from we've got almost a super majority of Democrats. Democrats love to help people. This is, that's the whole thing. It's about the disenfranchised. It's about working people, and the idea that people that have been disenfranchised in our communities, that there are some communities where they get help and there are other communities that they don't get help. That does not make sense to me at all. Another thing, and these are. I say low-hanging fruit 'cause I don't mean to imply that they're easy things to get, but they're easy things for me to register. What can I go work on right away? And one of them, this lake. Tourism is down. We have here in Lake County the fishing mecca. I'm telling you, I didn't really realize this, how important and how big bass fishing is. And,
Yes.
To people all throughout the Bay Area, to people throughout the Western United States, and it can and should be a destination. I did hear the end of your program about harvesting things in the lake. That I had not heard that before, and that was quite interesting that we need to explore. But one of the things on this Measure L, whether you're for it or against it, but if it passes, and I hope it does, one of the things is to me, I think it's outrageous that the citizens of Lake County, and I don't want people to vote no because of this, because I think we can use it as an incentive, that the citizens of Lake County should have to pay for this by themselves.
Right, exactly.
This
Are
is
you aware there's a multi-million-dollar Superfund site for the Sulphur Bank mine, which is the one that's leaching the mercury into the lake, that has never been spent?
Well, there
So,
needs to be
we
some
could go
about
for
that.
hours on that.
And so I'm hoping when this tax passes, that we can go in the state of California when I'm there and leverage that. We did that in Napa County. We passed a tax for our flood control project.
So you do support the Measure L tax?
I do support the Measure L tax. Self-help means a lot. And the idea that you're going to go to Sacramento or Washington, D.C. to get additional funds when you have no skin in the game is just not likely.
Right.
So this excites me from that standpoint. If this passes, it gives somebody working for all of us in the District 4 the leverage to go in and say these people are taxing themselves, and this isn't just a local problem.
Excellent. Well, no, not the way that our lake feeds the rest of the
That's
Bay
right.
Area. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
we do have a caller, though.
Okay, let me just ask one
Okay.
follow-up question, though. Have you read, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but have you read Measure L?
Not in its entirety,
Okay.
no.
I would suggest before you state on the record that you are absolutely yes for Measure L, you read the measure. And as a experienced person, as a county supervisor in a different area, obviously, I would highly suggest you read the measure and really interpret the words and the language in it before you then say, yes, I agree to it.
Fair enough.
Because of the way it's being written, the way the funds are being managed, and the way the oversight committee is being regulated.
There's a lot of non-specifics in there we feel could be more specific.
And we're all for helping the lake. Don't get us wrong here, but there's a right way of doing it and there's a wrong way.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair comment. I'm looking at it from the 10,000
Of course you
foot
will,
level in
absolutely.
terms of
Sure.
how can we make this place a better
Right.
place to live.
And that's why
work.
I said that, because a lot of our listeners are on both sides, and to
Yeah.
be fair, you should read the measure.
Very good.
Okay, we're going to go to a call. Hello, you're on the air.
Hello?
Okay, you're on the air. Hello? Anybody there? Hello, hello. Oh, I guess we lost them.
Patient today.
They are impatient. Hello, you're on the air. Hello? Oh, boy. Anybody there? Hello?
Nope.
Okay, so we had two calls and they both got disconnected or something. Anyway, call back, callers.
Okay. Would you-
Maybe they were going to ask the same question you
I
just
don't know.
asked.
It could very well be, or they
You
just
know?
got tired of waiting.
Hey, have you read that?
our listeners are so well informed. They make me look like I know absolutely nothing half the time. They really are good listeners.
That's fantastic.
Okay, one of our local residents has what I'll call a high job within state government, and he's in charge of the apprenticeship programs for the state, at least up in this area. Very sincere, very enthusiastic about what he does. Unfortunately, I'm used to apprenticeship programs from Commonwealth countries. I'm originally from Australia. So I'm used to true apprenticeship programs where you get hired in the profession you wish to be trained in. You get paid lower wages because they're paying you through school, paying you, educating and teaching you how to do a trade, be it electrician or whatever. Do you think that would be something that California State could look into to try to create more jobs and to train skilled labor within the specific industries that are located within the state and be able to provide employers, and you're an employer yourself, incentives, be able to afford to hire these people and get them properly trained.
Those are already here in many respects, and maybe not here, meaning like so maybe to extend the programs that they've got in more urban, suburban areas and get them to rural
Right.
counties where they can get to work. So, because I know the electricians and the plumbers and the sheet metal workers, I've toured their apprentice programs, and they're really quite impressive, I believe. But it's because, let's just say you had a young man or woman here in Lake County, they would have to go down there, then they'd have to get housing, and
And
so
they probably they don't come back.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the problem. They'll get a job
They
down
don't come
there
back.
somewhere.
Well, that's
We
good.
have another call.
I'm
you
looking
wanna
at
finish?
creating an environment within Lake County. It's a beautiful place to live. I've lived all over the world. This is a great place to live. There's no jobs. How do we keep the youth in county to be able to support and grow the economy here and create families here, which just
Well, one of the ways of doing it within our public education system is to bring back the technical trade schools. And that's what we need to do, the ROP programs.
Thank
Somebody
you.
can learn how to be a welder and get a job right here working on a
Hey.
or
And a good-
metal
and good-
shop
and good wages.
Good
I'm
wages.
I'm a trade school baby. I studied electronics and I've worked in computers and
that's
radio.
something that we can do
wonderful.
and do heavier in rural areas that don't
Right.
have the other
Exactly.
so you would advocate for that.
opportunities. Absolutely. That's yes.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Was that you earlier?
I'm not sure. I couldn't hear you calling me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, welcome.
In case I didn't hear anything, I just want to know basically about what would Mr. Dodd would be doing about the Cal Fire situation. Or my question with another candidate. Your last-
Regarding the Cal Fire, what is the situation?
Cal
The
Water in
fees or the
Lucerne.
water?
The Lucerne Cal Water issue.
Oh, the Cal Water in
Old
Lucerne.
People with those high water bills
Right,
and
right.
The situation we found ourselves in. And I'll take your answer off the call if you could familiarize with him with it in case he doesn't know.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you.
I think we have a couple of situations like the water in Lucerne in Napa County, and both of them were just about ready, for bankruptcy. That's how bad it was. And what's happened is this is a cross between the government, the state of California, and the Department of Health Services, and even on wastewater, both of those continuing to ratchet up the requirements of small community water systems to provide safe water. Because listen, if they don't, then all of a sudden the next
Well,
complaint
I was under the impression this is a private water company that's jacking. They're paying $200 to $300 a month for water there, which is absurd. I mean, nobody gets those
But
kind
it
of
is
fees.
absurd. But when you have, first of all, I'm not defending. Let's just, what I'm trying to do is, because I'm on the board of directors of two different water systems up at Lake Berryessa. And so it's not the same, but it's close enough to compare to. And what happens is their requirements that they have to meet the state requirements for discharge, the state requirements for drinking water have gone up precipitously. So at the same time, what they have to, and I don't know how many homeowners there are, but in our case, it was like 140 was in one, and I think 320 was in the other. And they're getting fined by the regional water quality board $400,000 for 152 people for it wasn't really a spill. It was just, but you got on the weight system.
So what you're saying is because the fees
It's a
that are
perfect
associated
storm.
to the water companies are so high, like our other water companies in this area that are also small companies, don't have the kind of fees or the monthly rates that this company has, and
Yep.
most of the people in that area are financially depressed or senior
Oh, yeah.
citizens.
Same with
so,
the one. It's a perfect storm, and when you have a private company, unlike what we had, we were, we're the government. We're here to help, but at least we didn't have a 15 to 20% on top of it. So
Right.
certainly these poor people out there in Lucerne are not only paying what they would normally pay, plus they're paying for a profit for a corporation. And I really believe that small community water supplies should be run by the community.
Special districts.
Special districts.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And do that so they have local control. They should serve. And this is what we did in Berryessa. We brought them in. We're creating a new board of homeowners or renters that are there that manage their own water district, manage their own expenses. But we need to have substantial funds. And this is the thing, this water bond that's going to come out in November. Maybe I can come back when that's there and talk about that. But we need to make sure that small communities like Lucerne and others have the ability to get some of that money.
Right.
And that Clear Lake, the whole Lake County, has an opportunity to get some of that money
Right.
for this lake for cleanup.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't all just go to Southern California
Thank you.
or to the bigger
And
cities.
a large portion of Clear Lake's water goes to Yolo County, and they also do not participate in helping the lake be clean, and they should, as far as I'm concerned. We have another call.
Go. Good.
Hello, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. I just want to address your guest. What do you think has to be changed, or what? Well, let's put it this way. 50, 60, 70 years ago, a lot of these problems would not have occurred. A lot of these complaints would not have come up. People would have taken care of it themselves because there was some kind of a common denominator, which could be perhaps called common sense. And now we are just sort of howling at the moon. Everything is, every fifth word is the money. People really cannot eat money, neither can they live of it directly. Therefore, there would have to be some kind of a change in the quality of their understanding. And you, of course, are politicians, so I assume that you would see differently. But is there anything you would consider necessary to change in a society which would basically get us away from these problems, because people would solve them on local level? There would be sufficient space, wiggling room for them to do that. And also all the social services would be, greatly reduced. The corporations would be broken and demonopolized, and we would just be able to get along with the neighbors and ourselves, for that matter. We have a 32.7% of our population with mental or emotionally diseased. Those are statistics. How did that happen, and what are we going to do? Do you think people who are unstable can possibly live properly and be members of the society which is supposed to function? I mean, this is a general question, maybe, but do you have any idea what needs to be done, what the so-called government has to step back from in order to people make their own mistakes from which they can learn?
Okay, thanks. We're going to have you take the answer off the air because we're almost out of time. Thank you.
That was a big question.
Yes, it was.
Big question. But you know what? It's an important question. And if you really read between the lines, and I think, I think that what I would look at that is we've got to have Jerry Brown. Whether you liked him the first time or the second time, I didn't particularly like him the first time around. I liked the fact he was hanging with Linda Ronstadt and all that stuff. But
You're going back a few years there.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But you know what? He has been the adult supervision in the room in Sacramento and really holding.
Really?
Yes, he has. He has held the line. This legislature, in my view, the last couple of years would have spent all the money. Any excess money we have. The reality is we have to create a sustainable funding sources and programs in the state of California. One of the problems is they're all high-fiving each other like, hey, the economic crisis is over. And because all the coastal counties the unemployment's gone down. But the interior counties, from Riverside County all the way up to Modoc, including Lake, the unemployment rates are between 16 and 26%. And until you get those people back to work, this recession is not over. And it is, if we have a hiccup in the stock market all of a sudden, it really doesn't make sense to me that we have a hiccup in the stock market, so the capital gains taxes goes down, and we're cutting education. We're cutting funding for mental health. We're cutting funding for foster kids. I mean, we can't. That is not sustainable. And what we need there is people in the legislature that can act responsibly and say, you know what? Some of these new bills, there's 2,000 bills. 2,000 bills every year. Why don't we just stop and say, hey, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to fix 5 things, or we're going to work on 5 things this year. Let's start with that. Now, that doesn't mean that things regarding health and safety and those type of emergency things don't come up, that we can't do that. But I think we try to be everything to everybody, and in the process, we come very little to everybody.
But don't you think there's so many bills, both at state and federal level? Isn't that called job security? All they do is write bills and more bills for special interest groups and incentives, and it just, it gets ridiculous. It's like the IRS codes. I've been an accountant my whole life. I get so sick and tired of all these revisions in tax codes because it's not really, most of them are not logical. It's strictly, who are they helping at this time?
Right.
If not their own pocketbook.
Right.
So that's the way I think about legislation.
But I think this is what this new open primary can do, is bring more moderates in there that can say, hey, look, at you guys from the far right, I'm sorry. You guys from the far left, I'm sorry on certain things.
Okay. I'm going to ask an obvious question.
Okay.
Make it easy for you. What was that, 14 years county supervisor?
Yes.
Of Napa? Mm-hmm. Do you think that experience, if you go to Sacramento, will give you an advantage of dealing with the county supervisors as a whole and individually within Assembly 4 District to help you provide the necessary legislation and incentives to help both the state and also the local counties?
I really do. And the reason is that the counties are subdivisions of the state. We run all their programs: Health and Human Services, corrections, the DA, the law enforcement components, and all the way across the board. Mental health, drug and alcohol, all those are. We know where the funding, the funding sources are, and also I have we run the jail in Napa County. So when we talk about correction services, guards. All of a sudden, these are not new concepts to me. This is something that I've been working at for 14 years. I'm the only county supervisor that's running for this race since Anthony got out of it, and I think that really gives me a leg up when I get to Sacramento to really help.
Cool. Last question, because we're almost out of time.
One phone call.
Okay, go for it.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, I was wondering if Mr. Dodd could clarify the water issue that they're in Lucerne with Cal Water. Are you in favor of passing legislation that would force for-profit water companies to amortize the cost of rate increases across all their ratepayers instead of just on localized communities like Lucerne, where they were forced to spend $6 or $7 million on upgrades?
That sounds good, but that would get overturned in court so fast. What we have to do is the idea that we're going to continue to have such high water rates in these areas, and if you heard before, we've got 2 of them there. One is all my constituents as a county supervisor in Napa County, and it is horrible. These people are paying $300 and $400 a month, for water, and it's just not fair, and it's not, it's not their fault. So some way, somehow, like this grant money that could be coming from the bonds. What we've got to do is find a way to help you take back your water system.
And we have to go. We got one more call I want to squeeze in. Thank you. Hello, you're on the air. Hello, you're on the air. Okay, so why don't we just take that opportunity now to close it up? We're at
My question
minute
is,
and a half.
if you get elected, would you be willing to come on a radio show, be it telephone or in person, say once a month, to give an update to the citizens of this county on what's going on in legislation and how you're helping this place?
Absolutely. I'd appreciate
Excellent.
the opportunity to be able to do that.
Sounds great. We appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I'm sorry we're right down to the wire now. We got a minute left. So if you would please give everyone your contact information, where they can get to your website, and how they can find you for more information in case they have other questions, that would be great.
Great. Thank you very much. My website is www.billdodd.com. And, You can email me at bill@billdodd.com. And yeah, I'd appreciate it. We get a lot of, and I'm on Facebook. You can click on that on the website and get right to the Facebook. And we enjoy getting the questions there too. So
Excellent.
I'm telling you what, I've been on a lot of radio programs. You're absolutely right. Your listeners are very well informed.
We have the best listeners in Lake County for sure. Thanks so much, Bill. We really appreciate it. This is Terry and Pete for Lake County Magazine. Just want to let you know our guests for next week are going to be Gavin Newsom,
Yes. And
Lieutenant Governor candidate,
Right.
and Sheriff candidate Brian Martin. So it should be another good show, just
another
like today.
great show.
All right, folks. See you next week. Thanks for sticking.